Hello everyone and welcome to a new series on my YouTube channel. This time we're going to look into the setups on F1 2019, simply because no one's done it yet on YouTube. I get so many comments on my hot lap videos, you know, how do we make a good setup for the race, not just for time trial, and they are different. So this series is going to basically look at showing you what the setup parameters do, what I run, so you're not only going to get a good setup hopefully by the end of it, by the end of the series, but you're going to understand how setups work a lot more, so you can start developing your own, which is quite important on the game because everyone has a different driving style. So basically, to start off, what you want to do is you want to go into time trial. We're going to pick Brazil because it's a track that has quite a few medium to high speed corners, so there's a bit of downforce needed, so it's a good track to start off with as an example. And what we'll do then is we'll go to the setups, we'll nick one of the top TT time setups, so we'll use me for, you know, ease sake, and we'll take that setup because the setups on time trial, they're not perfect but they're not far away, so you can use them as a good baseline. So the aerodynamics on the TT setups won't change too much when you go into the league race. So as you can see, 4-5 wings, so we'll save that, we'll put it as test, and then what we'll do is we'll back out and we'll go into a lobby. So we'll make our own lobby. I've got 2 accounts, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a lobby, private one, invite that account, and then we can get started. So, a bit of education. Aerodynamics are the parts of the car that generate downforce to suck the car into the track. On basic terms though, the only bits we care about are the front and rear wing, as they are the only parts of aerodynamics on F1 2019 that you can adjust. So a good thing to note in terms of how I work on pretty much every simulator or every game is I like to get the aerodynamics sorted out first, i.e. I want a good front to rear balance, and you can do that with the front and rear aerodynamics because they make such a difference to the car. So what we're going to do is show you the extent you can go to with the downforce levels. So we're going to put 11 on the front and then 1 on the rear. That's a horrendous amount of downforce generated by the front wing, and naturally when you go out onto the track it feels horrible. There's so much oversteer, the back end of the car cannot keep up with the front end at all. This leads to a number of things, the tyres overheating, the tyres wearing, and it's basically borderline undrivable. So we're oversteering on entry, mid-corner and on exit. But you get a sense of how the car feels if the front downforce is a little bit too much. So that's very useful going forward. So there's 2 main words you're going to hear throughout this entire setup series, and that is oversteer and understeer. Oversteer we've already shown you with the enormous amount of front wing levels. This is the opposite. This is 111 wings, all the downforce is to the rear of the car, and you get the opposite effect. You get understeer, which means the front nose of the car is pushing through the corners and you can't get it turned in. So as you can see, it's not wearing the tyres out, so in that sense it's good at tyre saving, but it's not fast because you're not meeting apexes. You have to slow the car down more to get it into the corner. This is also not what you want. You know, you want a balance between oversteer and understeer, and using the wings is probably the most effective way you can find that balance. So now you've got an idea of what the extremes feel like in terms of downforce levels. You can get an idea of what the finer adjustments will feel like, just smaller than what you've already just tested. So 4-5 is the setup we took from time trial. We're going to go and try it in qualifying, and the lap itself, it feels okay. You know, it feels quick, it feels a little bit oversteery, but you can kind of get away with it in qualifying because you don't have to save the tyres. You get a bit of tyre overheating at the end of the lap, but still you can get away with it. You can set a fairly good time. However, this is not the aim. A league race is not just about qualifying. It's a big part of it, but the race is also very important. So you have to cater for both aspects of the weekend, shall we say. So having recently become a racing driver, I thought I'd get my excuse levels to a racing driver spec. So a quick word of warning, you'll have to excuse the driving shown in these videos because I simply don't play F1 2019 enough to be on the pace of the top league races at the moment. I literally jumped on to do this series, but given the experience I've had in the game in previous months, I can still offer a good series that gives you guys an insight into setups and hopefully give you some good setups as well. But as you can see, the qualifying setup we used, which was from time trial with 4-5 wings, in the race it's a little bit oversteery, lots of mistakes made, not undrivable, but it's certainly hard to get it to last the distance of a whole stint. You know, and that's the complete opposite of what you want in a league race setup. You want a quick qualifying setup, but at the same time, if you have to sacrifice a tenth or 2 in qualifying to make sure it lasts the distance in the race at a competitive pace, then that's what you have to do. It's a long race, most league races are 50%, and you have to make sure you cater for that as well as qualifying. So to give you some numerical evidence on why a league racing setup is better than a time trial setup, look at the tyre wear. After 11 laps, you're looking at 29%, 32%, 39, then 42. Remember those 4 values because we're going to do the same test but with my own league racing setup, and you'll see the difference. And of course with tyre wear, the lower the value, the better. Also, just take a note that the best lap of that stint was a 1 minute 10.9, so we can reference that with the next stint and see if it is a similar pace we're going at. So onto my league racing setup, what we're going to show you is 2 on the front and then 6 on the rear. Simply because there was oversteer in that last one, so we're going to reduce the front wing and increase the rear wing. And if you go back to our previous bit on the extremes of downforce, it makes a bit of sense. You know, we don't want to go too much, but we're going enough that it will make a solid difference and hopefully a benefit to our race and qualifying pace. And so you can see in qualifying, it's a lot more relaxed, it's smoother. The lap time isn't actually too different. Again, don't look at the lap time compared to what, say, the top league racers can do. My driving, my time on the game recently has not been enough, but it's a consistent lap time. It's the same pretty much in quali, and therefore you can't say it's worse. So let's go and see how it is in the race. So as you can see in the race, it's a lot smoother, less mistakes were made, it's just more drivable, and that means not only less tyre wear, but the tyre temp stays down as well, tyre temperature, which is vitally important. It's very important to keep the tyre carcass temperature, which is the top value on the temperature board on the MFD, below 100 degrees on all 4 tyres. That's the aim. When it goes above 100 degrees, it does get you into big trouble. Then you get more tyre wear and it does become a bit hard to keep the tyres under control. You get wheel spin, you get oversteer, which is obviously not what we're aiming for. On some tracks it's hard to keep the tyres under 100 degrees. It's tracks like Singapore, Circuit of the Americas as well, but on the whole that's what you should be aiming for. And on the other setup, on the time trial setup, that was definitely not what we were achieving. They were about consistently 104 degrees, which is far too high, and it led to mistakes. As you can see across the line, and the tyre wear values are completely different in favour of our new setup. You're looking at 27, 31, 32 and then 35, which is considerably lower than what the TT setup allowed us to do as well, which that was the aim. And it shows you that a league racing setup does make a lot of difference, not only the ability to drive the car, but the ability to make tyres last longer in a stint, which means you can push harder and your pace should improve overall, which means, yeah, so many benefits. That is the many positives of a league racing setup compared to a TT setup. So an important thing to note in F1 2019, considering the aerodynamics, is in between the qualifying and the race session, even in part firming conditions, you can change the front wing value, which is very important. Say for example on a track you want to extract that little bit more time in qualifying, so you run say 4 or 5 wings in qualifying. Then in the race you can run 2-5 and you should be able to do something with that race setup. You know, if you can't compromise fully quali to race with one setup, you do have that flexibility with changing the front wing in between the sessions, which I find useful at some tracks. I remember at Silverstone I used a bit more front wing in quali and then backed it off in the race just to make the tyres last a bit longer. I find it very helpful, and it's just a little tip you can use going forward in all your league racing endeavours. So what I'm going to do is something a little bit different, and you don't usually see it on YouTube. I'm going to leave the setups in the description below. However, I'm not going to leave the full setups. I'm going to leave the parameters we're talking about in the description below. So you'll see all the tracks in F1 2019, and you'll see the wings I use at every single track. Now, as we go forward, suspension, you'll see the suspension values I run at every track, then brakes, and so on and so forth. And then by the end of the series, you'll have education on how to work these setups on the game, but you'll have setups to use as well, and they are very good setups. They come from everywhere, all over the place, different people I race with, people in my team, so you can deem them, if you can suit them to your driving style, they will be quick and you can get good results with them. So I thought I'd do that. I was feeling quite generous, and I think it would benefit a lot of the F1 2019 community if they had the ability to know about setups but also have very good setups as well. And well, if that's not worth you subbing to my channel, then quite frankly, I don't know what is. But for the first episode of the setup series on F1 2019, I think that is all. We're going to keep it to dry conditions for this series. I might do a wet series in the future, but if you start adding in wet conditions, it starts to make things a bit too complicated for one episode, I think. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you found it educational. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope you all can't wait for episode 2. So thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed it that much, then give it a like, and if you enjoyed it that much, then subscribe to the channel, because there will be lots more content coming to the channel over the next few months. But until the next video, I'll see you soon.